Hello, Bame Farm fans. Well, this video wasn't necessarily planned to happen like this. Mostly because I forgot to video this morning while picking, and I didn't plan on picking right now. So this is real exciting. Halfway reminiscent of, say, hand ear picking back in the, I don't know, 20s and 30s. That, well, Dad is at market right now, and there's still 3 hours of market left. It's the last Wednesday of August, and I know our little local town of I don't know how many thousand residents and maybe 2 stoplights that they still have working has a farmer's market, and I guess we've been going there long enough that all the locals know we'll be there with corn, and they must think it's pretty good. That Dad's already sold 100 dozen in the first, technically 2 hours. The market is supposed to be from noon to 5. He'll get up there at 11 to set up, and folks will already be pulling in, you know, wanting vegetables when he gets there at 11. So he'll still end up being up there at the market spot for about 6 hours. But this happened last Wednesday. Well, that's really good. I think we just got 3 years off that stock. That one's, maybe not. Almost 3. That lower one, that's a little funky. Where it's spaced out, they'll be pretty good. So this is a yellow variety that I can't quite remember the name of. I'm a little rusty on the sweet corn, especially the whites and the yellows. We've had to change a lot of those because seed availability went downhill on non-bicolor varieties. Availability and quality, it seemed like, you know, some of the older varieties that we used to use, like Argent is a white variety. You know, plant quality and durability in our climate has gone way downhill. So we've had to change to, I think it's called Lead Off. It is a fantastic white. The kernels are almost pearly. I don't think this is Incredible, because I would have remembered that. Incredible is a yellow variety. It's real good. So yeah, corn sales are fantastic. Now, we picked corn into a kind of a homemade wagon, probably from the 50s, where somebody used an old car axe. So we picked that this morning because it was much muddier. I guess the sunshine of the late morning and early afternoon here has greatly helped the mud factor. I mean, you can see the tracks. Down there by the road, it was much worse. And maybe that's because we were pulling a full wagon at that point. So we were just picking directly into a trailer. So Dad took that to market. And this is what we've got left to pick into. Mom's not feeling well right now. She can drive tractor, but she's been under the weather from the flu this past week. But I can get her to drive tractor instead of me trying to push wheelbarrow and pick by myself. Plus, I thought it was maybe too muddy for a wheelbarrow still. Good news is tomorrow morning will be much better for the wheelbarrows. Typically, we pick into 2-wheeled 10 cubic footers, which are fantastic. I mean, I like them. They're wide. You can get 20 dozen in them. Eva, are you trying to break my ankle? Digging a hole. Tell me when you find China, but you better watch out. If you do, you may turn into Kung Pao chicken or Mushu pork. So don't dig too deep there, dog. Now, I mean, we're well over halfway through the season. Like I said, end of August, we have corn planted over 10 acres to span 10 weeks from what ends up being about mid-July through to solidly the 3rd week of September. I mean, we've tried, and the earliest we've gotten was like the day after the 4th of July having corn ready, and that's hoping we have good cooperative weather at the end of April, and that's very rare. Just to maintain warmth and maintain dryness that early in the season. Our early plantings, they survived, but they weren't spectacular. because they had to fight through moisture, lots of moisture, and that drug them down. Ooh, we missed. The goal is to pick about 20 dozen. The market is heavily front-loaded with customers, but now that school's back in session, we'll start getting a good flow of, you know, parents stopping after picking up their kids. And also, well, it used to be there was a factory in town that would let out middle of the afternoon and we get a lot of those workers. That's kind of changed hands between, you know, Japanese companies, and I don't know if they have a shift change anymore in the middle of the afternoon or not. Oh yeah, nice yellow. And a fishing worm. This time of the year, extra protein is free. We're not overly wild about chemicals. By we, I mean Dad. That one feels funny. Oh, that's got a big old worm. We're not going to send that. Here, Eva. That's good. You want an ear? What are you mad? I took a bite. Usually in the morning, she's hounding me for corn to eat. She must be too hot. She had 5 ears the other morning. She had started out, she'd eat the ones the raccoons had nibbled on before I finally got her to eat a nice fresh ear that wasn't pre-chewed. Now don't ask me how this is going to go getting this out of the wagon. I'm hoping the door is big enough. It's going to have to flow. Good news is I won't be thoroughly dew soaked. That's typically a morning thing. But pick it in the sun, it feels like your arms are just getting continually sliced by 8.5, 11 sheets of paper. Hopefully I don't get too many paper cuts from the leaves. I don't know what the difference is between being dry and wet in the morning. Now, for anybody who wonders, there's about 5 dozen in a bushel. And they claim that's 50 bushel. That's a stretch. It has to be heaped. So, theoretically, if that wagon was full of ears of sweet corn, even at, say, 40 bushel times 5, you could get 200 dozen ears of corn in that wagon. That is an interesting thought. I never thought about it that way. Because I never planned on filling my tiny gravity wagon with sweet corn. But right now, it's coming in clutch. And then we can just pull this to town up to market and figure out how to get it out once we get there. But the point is to get Dad corn as fast as possible. Now this section of corn, it's a little slow picking because it's already been picked through once about a week ago. Germination here wasn't super even for some reason. You can kind of tell it slopes down that way towards the road and it crests up here a little bit. That the sloping section was slightly not wet when this was planted, so it didn't germinate as quick until it got, you know, a little more rain on it. So that's where I'm picking most of the corn, is down here. Now we've already picked that, so we're just running it down, and really running it down makes it easier to come out and green chop, because if you come at it from the opposite direction, the green chopper will pull at the tops of the stalks. I don't know, let's check. I have no clue. I have no clue. I can't relate to how it would fit in a wheelbarrow. I mean, the goal is to get at least 20 dozen. Of course, if you think this wagon could hold 200 dozen, then it'd only be 10% full. See, we didn't think we'd have a shortage problem today because typically the end of the month well, it's the end of the month. And, you know, I imagine there's many folks who only get paid maybe once a month, or even if it's every other week, they won't get paid until the end of this week, Friday. And sometimes that you can just tell, like when it's the end of the month and kids go back to school, at the end of August can be real slow. Well, that's not happening today, just fantastic. And even for the fact that we're picking yellow, yellow seems to be less favored out in the country, probably because many folks out here grew up, you know, going out to the edge of a field corn field and trying to guess it just right, or for when the corn is, like, field corn has a very small window of a couple days where it's tender and kind of sweet, that you can eat it like sweet corn before it starts getting starchy and hard. And that's probably why, you know, out here in the country, I'm gonna say they frown on it, but it's you know, people are not colorblind, unfortunately. And I think this yellow is some of the sweetest corn we grow. And a lot of folks in the country have a preference for white. They think they want Silver Queen. And the problem with that is Silver Queen was developed, what, in the 50s? You know, obviously popular in the 60s and 70s. And, you know, sweet corn genetics have come a long way, just through natural breeding. Plus, I'm sure there's some of that crooked laboratory stuff going on along the way. That there's much sweeter and better, you know, varieties of white corn out there. But, you know, it's become like a Kleenex for tissues. Any white corn is just sold as Silver Queen. And if anybody wants to know if they're actually buying Silver Queen from somebody on the roadside, you see these, we call these flag leaves coming off the ear. Those are maybe 6-7 inches. On Silver Queen, they're a foot long or more, and the pile of ears will look shaggy because it's almost like they've got full-on corn leaves coming off. And out in the field, Silver Queen is tall. I mean, it's not very efficient for today's standards. I mean, the sweet corn you see is 6 foot tall at best. A lot of it's short. And the ear placement on this yellow is not too bad. Some, especially the early varieties, you're down on your hands and knees picking. This is a little low, it's not horrendous. I've picked worse. So this isn't too bad to reach. Now this corn did get rototilled. We sprayed it with atrazine and acetochlor. And then we rototilled it, oh, I don't know, I guess it's probably been more than a month ago now. The problem, you know, with sweet corn is that it doesn't necessarily shade the row so well like field corn will, especially planting on wide rows. See, a couple weeks ago, we didn't really have any corn, and the local apple orchard had planted a little bit, and mostly for themselves, and they had extra. So we bought it from them and picked it out of their field, and it was 30-inch rows. We all agreed that was definitely a tight process. I mean, I'm not a big guy, and I'm, you know, plenty happy with the width on 38s here. Especially, not that I have a wheelbarrow out here, but if we had to push wheelbarrows through 30s, yeah, that would be extra tight. Oh, how close are we to the end? Oh, the end is at the field corn, so I'd say we're over halfway. Okay, we're hooked up. Safety first. Let's roll. And Dad just called. Oh, wondering where we were, because apparently we weren't picking corn fast enough. I thought we were moving along pretty good for what it was. Okay, make sure nobody's coming. Well, it probably looks better for me than it does for you strapped to my head. Ooh, must have a lot of weight back there. Or I'm super excited to get this corn to market as fast as possible. I'll catch you guys in a few minutes. Well, here we are, the back side of the market. It looks like a bunch of cars, and we're gonna probably block a bunch of people here to make sure we can get in and get this wagon up to him. He's there in the 150, so we're just gonna park and block traffic. I'm sure that's super great to do because this is the town police station. How lovely. Oh, wagon made it. It's back here. There's corn. Pull the pin. I'm glad this is so light. I'm gonna have to leave him the hitch. We'll trade trailers. Because that's what he brought right there, full of corn, very full. Yep, we got all hooked up back there. Got the little trailer on. You can maybe see a little bit of mud on it. That's a very old trailer made out of a car axle. I may have to do some zooming in. We'll just creep from across the street here. So we can see Dad. Behind the car there, there's a couple more folks. Usually maybe 4, 5, you know, farms coming up. The one there on the end has honey. A good little selection. Now the fellow there with the straw hat and the red shirt, he grows his vegetables organic. He's got a good little selection of stuff. Just a small free market. There's nothing, well, it's very free. There's no fee. They just put out a sign, and it's for the community. So anybody who grows or, you know, or bakes or whatever their own stuff can come up and sell vegetables. And it's fairly busy. I mean, right now is maybe a slow time, but it's a steady trickle. There's not much time to sit down. Dad still looked like he was eating his lunch, and we got a lot of traffic passing. I'm just parked off the side of the road. So that's kind of a little look at the market, you know.